Hello everyone, I'm Bodine Victoria, and yes, I'm not in my kitchen, but my pots are in the video. I'm taking a moment just to enjoy myself a bit on my first week of vacation. But guess what? I don't want you to think that I neglected this final day of crab month. Here is the perfect recipe for brunch with your family and friends. This is my creamy crab quiche with spinach, peppers, and tomatoes, because you don't have to do the traditional things with your good crab meat. You could remix them, and I'm going to show you how. This episode of BodinePot is sponsored by Showman E Bistro, the restaurant, and it's time to dine with a full bar up until 10 o'clock at night. That means that you and your friends can enjoy the world-inspired cuisine offered by Showman E Bistro and Chef Romero's team of internationally trained chefs. That's right, enjoy Showman E Bistro, the restaurant, now open. Okay, y'all, the key to a good pie crust is making sure that the butter stays cold. Now, we're using a little bit, about a cup and a half of flour, and at the end of this portion of the recipe, you can see the recipe card. Now, only use half a teaspoon of salt. I'm using garlic salt, my homemade garlic salt, and if you're using a lot of salt, you don't need salted butter, so you can use unsalted butter. But the key is the butter needs to be frozen. You can't have melted butter for this type of situation. Now you're gonna cut the butter in using, well, I use my potato masher, but you can use your fingers, and we're adding ice cold water, and I'm just mixing it around right now, being lazy with a fork, but you can do this with your hands. And I'm gonna throw it out onto the cutting board or onto the table, and I'm going to start to gently knead it. Now you're going to see some big yellow chunks of butter. Don't mind them. That can make my pie crust a lot flakier, but you can actually just make yours a little bit smaller, those little butter chunks a little bit smaller. And what I did is I added water in half a tablespoon increments as needed to make sure to bring this together, but I didn't really need to because the butter itself started to pull everything together. And if you notice that your crust is starting to get a little bit warm, then that means you need to work a little bit quicker and you need to refrigerate it. So we're going to take it, we're going to wrap it in some plastic wrap, and we're going to stick it in the freezer. We want this to be not necessarily frozen, but we want it to be very cold. And that is what is going to give us the flakiness along with the right texture and temperature when we take it out of the oven. All right, y'all, let us make our filling. So we putting some oil in the pan because now it's time to kind of caramelize our onions. And by now, if you see how I cook my method, you would notice that caramelizing the onions, or, breaking them down a little bit, is the first thing, because I want them to be nice and sweet. I don't want them to be too tart in the pan, but to each his own. Now, because we're using coarsely chopped fresh spinach, we gotta let all the water evaporate out the spinach, because spinach is mostly water. That's why it is disappear inside your pan. Next, we're gonna add some bacon. Now I have my bacon cut up nice and chunky, but you can cut yours up, mince it up some more. I just felt like this would be a really nice texture, and for the love of God, y'all, please use the actual cooked bacon. Don't put the raw bacon in there. Now I'm going to throw in my tomatoes, and if you don't want yours to be soggy, what you need to do is you need to take the water out the tomato. And this is my cup of crab meat. Now y'all know I've been picking crab late in the morning, late, like literally till late in the morning for these recipes. And it's because I wanted to show you guys a new way of being able to make your favorite dishes but using our native crab meat, because I don't feel like we're supposed to be spending $30 for a can of crab meat when we could just buy it from somebody locally or make your own. Now, y'all know it's not a Bahamian dish without the thyme, so we got the thyme inside here. And we're also, let me tell you what to do if you have it. If you have it, throw some fresh oregano in there, throw some fresh parsley inside here, and you'd be surprised at how delicious this tastes. Now, I have some dried sage that I'm throwing in here because I didn't have any more sage, but this is going to give us a sweet taste along with half a tablespoon of lemon juice. And y'all know it ain't a Bahamian dish without your goat pepper, so I'm using my Ignite goat pepper flakes, and we're going to set this to the side and let this cool for a couple minutes. This is the easiest part. Now we have either a quarter cup or a third a cup of half and half. You want to use cream or you want to use full fat milk, and I broke 3 eggs into here. And we're going to beat those eggs into the milk so that they incorporate. Notice how golden yellow this is. Now, please measure your salt because we had salt in the bacon, salt in the pie crust, salt in the crab because we cooked that. So you don't need a lot of salt. So use about half a teaspoon of salt and then as much pepper as you would like inside your eggs, and you're going to mix that. This cold pie crust you just took out the fridge, you roll it out onto your board, okay? And this should still be cold, so don't take it out and have it resting for too long. You need to pull it out and it needs to be cold while you roll it. Then you want to grease whichever pan you're using to bake with, and then you're going to take this pie crust and you go rest it inside the pan and gently push the middle of the pie crust into the pan so that it fits. Please don't be harsh with this, okay? Notice how I'm gently moving it around and feeling for the bottom of the pan. That's what you want to do, especially because we're not blind baking this crust. And then you're going to cut off all the little extra pieces when you're satisfied. Now listen, the beauty of a quiche is the fact that sometimes the edges ain't perfect. You know, it makes it homey. So don't look for me to make no super duper, super califragilistic kind of cutting crust. No, I ain't got time for that. We just trying to eat the quiche and we want it to taste good, and it could taste good. So don't mind that. Just, cut it around, give it some character. As a matter of fact, because you're making this inside your kitchen, whatever you decide to do with your crust, that's up to you. And I'm going to put that to the side because I'm using that to make some mini ones. Now we're going to take our cooled filling. If you put hot filling into the quiche pan, what's going to happen is your dough is going to start to cook before you want it to cook. And you're going to have a soggy kind of dough. And we're topping it with our cheddar cheese. You can use whichever cheese you want, but I chose cheddar, which also has salt. And now we're going to put the egg mixture into the quiche. Notice that I didn't just drop it all on there one time. I'm measuring to see how much this is. And now that I know that it's full, I'm actually just going to take my fork and gently mix this around to incorporate the cheese. I mean, you could have done it the other way, but this is the way I wanted to do mine. And I'm also releasing some of the air bubbles at the same time. Now, our oven has been heating at 350 degrees for the last 5 or 7 minutes. And so my electric oven is hot enough. And we're going to let this sit there in the oven until the center of the toothpick that we put in it as we check it comes out clean. So that's about 40-45 minutes. And this is what I did with the extras. Here are the ingredients. Thanks for watching up to this point, guys. And there you have it, a beautiful crab quiche, perfect for your ladies' brunches or brunch in general, especially if you want something that is delicious. And if you go to my Instagram page, I will show you which wine you can pair with this. It is beautiful. So we bring Crab Month to a close here on BodinePot. Don't forget recipes for crab rangoon. We have a creamy crab and spinach bread bowl recipe, as well as the best Bahamian crab and grits you will ever taste here on the channel. On the Instagram page, there is the crab cakes. We also have here on the channel almost traditional crab and dough. The star of the show was our crab and duff featured on ZNS News, and we have some crab fritters. So don't forget, next year we'll have new recipes for Crab Month, and I thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget, we have new recipes for the month of July, which is Independence Month, here on BodinePot. I want to say thank you guys so much for interacting. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, hit like on the video, and share. But most of all, please don't forget, don't let any and everybody dig up in your pot. Love you guys. Bye, my gubbas.